All right, welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Giacomo Luca. Thanks so much for joining us. Pakistan's Air Force has launched retaliatory airstrikes early Thursday in Iran, allegedly targeting militant hideouts, an attack that killed at least 9 people and further raised tensions between the neighboring nations. Meanwhile, the United States also announcing it striked at least 14 Iran-backed Houthi missiles in Yemen. That also comes as the escalations in Gaza continue. At least 16 people were killed in airstrikes by Israel in southern Gaza today. And there's also no word on whether or not medicine has reached hostages there in Gaza after an agreement there. Want to turn now to Fox News correspondent Trey Yingst with the very latest on all of it. He joins us live from Tel Aviv with the very latest. Good morning, Trey.
Hey, Giacomo. Good morning.
Trey, tell me first about those attacks overnight on those target sites in Yemen and the escalating conflict there between the U.S. and the Houthis.
Yeah, absolutely. So as the threats continue from Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen, targeting commercial shipping vessels in the Red Sea, the United States has started to increase strikes against Houthi rebels. And overnight, for the 4th time, they struck this group. And this time it was a unilateral strike targeting 14 different missile launching positions. And according to U.S. Central Command, Tomahawk missiles were used, a very accurate missile that allows the United States to target specifically what they're looking for. And look, they're trying to send a message here to the Houthis that they do have the ability and the intelligence to target much of their weapons arsenal. A new report in the Wall Street Journal indicates that U.S. intelligence says about a quarter of Houthi weapons capabilities have been destroyed in these strikes that have taken place over the last week and a half. And so it is a significant question to ask. How much is this Iranian proxy willing to risk, and how much are they willing to lose as they continue provocative actions against these commercial shipping lanes in the Red Sea?
Trey, meanwhile, let's talk about the strikes that happened in Iran as well. This coming after Iran apparently made strikes in Pakistan earlier this week, and now Pakistan striking back. What do we know about this?
So on Tuesday, the Iranians struck Pakistan. They say they were targeting a militant group that was linked to attacks inside Iran. Meanwhile, the government in Islamabad said that 2 children were killed in those strikes that included both missiles and drones. We understand overnight Pakistan responded against a militant organization inside Iran. And this is significant because other countries striking Iranian territory is extremely rare. And we're talking about 2 regional powers that have significant weapons capabilities. Now, we've already started to see diplomatic actions with ambassadors being recalled and threats rising in the region. The real concern here is that the buildup on the border between the 2 countries could erupt into a larger ground conflict. And that is certainly what other mediators, such as China, are trying to avoid in all of this.
And meanwhile, Trey, we've learned that an Israeli airstrike on a home killed 16 people, half of them children, as the fighting continues in southern Gaza near the town of Rafah. We also know that yesterday there was that exchange of an agreement being made where the Israelis essentially would send medicine from that brokered agreement between Qatar and France. Have we learned whether or not anybody has received that medicine, at least the hostages?
So we know the medicine has made it into the Gaza Strip. And remember, this was a deal that was brokered really without Israeli help. And internally in Israel, politically, the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, has faced some criticism because this is seen as an indication of how little the Israeli government is able to negotiate with Hamas directly as this war continues. We're more than 100 days in. This medicine deal was brokered between France and Qatar, and reports indicate it was at a 1,000 to 1 box ratio. So for 1 box of medicine for the hostages, there would be 1,000 boxes of medicine for humanitarian aid to enter the Gaza Strip. We know it's inside the Strip. It's difficult to track exactly where it ended up, but the Qataris were the ones delivering it, not the Red Cross or other international organizations like the United Nations. As for the strike overnight, we understand more than a dozen people were killed in Gaza's third largest city of Rafah. We've been talking with Palestinians on the ground inside Gaza who indicate the Israeli air campaign against the Strip continues, despite the fact that the Israelis have actually pulled troops out of most of northern Gaza and pulled them back from positions in the central part of the Strip. But remember, as this war pushes forward, many of the Hamas and Islamic Jihad militants have moved to the south, where there is a heavy civilian population following weeks and months of evacuation orders by the Israelis. So we're entering a very difficult time period here. The region is eventually going to have to find some sort of diplomatic solution to end the conflict. And there are a lot of questions being asked about what the day after looks like for Gaza.
And the last question I have for you in the wake of some of the recent news was conversations about what will happen at Israel's northern border with Lebanon. I know there's been discussions about potentially a peacekeeping force there. What do you know about that?
So the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah, for the first time this week, indicated they would be open to the idea of a diplomatic solution. The reality on the ground is far different. You still have daily exchanges of fire, both anti-tank guided missiles and rockets being launched into Israeli territory. Over the weekend, 2 civilians were killed along the northern border between Israel and Lebanon. And the chief of staff over the past 24 hours in Israel has indicated the region is getting closer to a war with Hezbollah. And remember, we are not talking about groups like Hamas and Islamic Jihad that had a rocket arsenal of thousands. It's estimated that there are hundreds of thousands of rockets and missiles belonging to the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. They have received backing and funding by the Iranian regime, precision-guided missiles, and there's an understanding on the ground here in Tel Aviv that if a broader war erupts in the north, major cities, such as this one and others across Israel, will face significant missile fire, and the amount of fire could easily overwhelm Israel's missile defense systems. So it's certainly a front that Israel has to keep an eye on. They have to decide where they want to put their missile defense systems. And they've actually pulled some troops out of Gaza, put them into training, given others arrests in anticipation that there could be a broader conflict developing. Giacomo.
And Trey, there is a deep concern about a broader conflict developing. Trey Yingst there in Tel Aviv for us today. We sure do appreciate it. All right, thanks so much to him and all of our crews over with Fox News breaking down the latest for us.